Hello, everybody. Gives me great pleasure in welcoming you all to the launch of the book 50 New Life Mantras, authored by my good friend, Mr. Agnelorajesh, a social and a serial entrepreneur. I wish to welcome with pride Captain Raghu Raman, a renowned strategist, risk management expert, and founding CEO of the National Intelligence Grid, who has consented to launch the book. To formally introduce Mr. Agnelorajesh, fondly called as Rajesh, is the chairman of St. Angelo's VNCT Ventures and is an entrepreneur with varied business interests. Rajesh has this unique zeal of seeking an opportunity in any adversity, and his rags to riches journey is an inspiration to many young entrepreneurs. Harnessing his harsh life lessons and learnings from the various challenges he has faced in the business and personal front, Mr. Agnelorajesh has been able to envision the opportunities that are waiting to be explored in the current times of the COVID-19 pandemic. The book, 50 New Life Mantras, is a compilation of these learnings in a very crisp and impactful manner, targeted to benefit not only the entrepreneurs, but also students, startup founders, and anyone who's seeking a user manual to navigate through these tough times, as the book touches upon a variety of subjects and a variety of aspects of this new normal life. The book, according to me, comes across as a business and a personal guide to every entrepreneur. Rajesh, Geeta, and I have had the wonderful opportunity to discuss the 50 topics featured in the book over the past 25 days on Facebook Live, which garnered great attention from thousands of people from various walks of life. And with one note from this book, 50 Life Mantras is to be launched by Captain Raghu Raman, a risk management expert himself, is definitely going to lend a lot of testimony to the whole book, the author, and what it holds in itself. Captain Raghu will be launching the book officially in this virtual event, which would then be followed by a discussion between Captain and Rajesh. I would now like to call upon Captain Raghu Raman onto the screen, please.
Thanks a ton, Nagu. That was a great introduction. Thank you very much for that. And of course, everyone, welcome to this event. It's personally for me, it's actually quite an interesting sort of journey to be here during this book launch, because I have known Rajesh for more than 20 years now. And actually, not very many people know how we met. And there is a nice story of how we met, and there is an important lesson in that story also. So this was, I think, in the year 1999 or 2000, when I was heading a company which was looking at information security. I was working with the Mahindra Group at that point of time, and my responsibility was to secure, amongst other things, the communications of all the leaders of Mahindra, including Mr. Anand Mahindra. So what had happened was that, as you might be aware, at that time, most of the people who would be flying, they would be stopping at terminals, and they would be checking their mail in the terminals. And most terminals, in airports, the terminals that are kept, they are all key logged, and they're not very safe. So in a bid to convince Mr. Anand Mahindra that he needed to shift to a better instrument, there was this Nokia, I don't remember the name of the serial number of the Nokia communicator, which was like a, almost like a geometry box. It's this big. But that was the latest thing at that point of time. And the vendor came to us, and we had a look at it, and we said, okay, this is what we are going to recommend to our top management. And the deal was done. Everything was done. But then what happened was Mr. Anand Mahindra said that I have been used to the earlier phone. Now I'll have to. He was using some phone which had that, writing. I think it was Sony Ericsson or something like that. And he said, I want to. So the vendor told me that there is a gentleman who I know who is really abreast with technology, and that person, why don't we bring him? And I thought that will be much easier to sort of explain to Mr. Mahindra. And that's when I meet Rajesh for the first time. And I think even 20 years ago, and of course we both went and met Mr. Anand Mahindra. It was a very interesting meeting. Another story I'll tell you at another time. But even 20 years ago, Rajesh was ahead in terms of technology adoption than even the MD of Mahindra & Mahindra. he knew the innards of the technology so well that even the vendor who was selling the instrument was more confident of asking Rajesh to be the one who will demonstrate. And Rajesh did take out the time to come and meet. And honestly, I mean, at that point of time, we were both younger, much younger, and at least and I think to a certain extent, Rajesh also was in a certain degree of awe of Mr. Anand Mahindra. But the comfort with which he spoke to him, the confidence with which he spoke to him, even at that point of time, sort of showed the indications that this is a different person. This is not a normal person. This is a person whose journey is not going to be normal. It's going to be different. And in many ways, over the last 20 years, I have very closely observed Rajesh. We have been very good friends, and I have seen his journey from very, very tough circumstances, not circumstances that are easy to get out of. And yet from there, the journey that he's made from where he was to where he is today, and inshallah, he'll be many, many more exponential moves ahead. But that journey, to my mind, is an inspirational story in itself, because and I'll, of course, during the conversation I'll have with Rajesh, I'll ask him to briefly explain that journey as well, because I think he will be able to explain it much better than I will. And obviously, many of you might know that he's also done several talks, but there is one talk in which he's described his journey very well. I think it's important for a lot of us to hear that, and especially for the next generation, because these are times during which there is a lot of uncertainty. There is a lot of lack of resources. The value of money that people had, value of savings that they had, may not be the same right now as it used to be a few months ago. So to hear the journey of a person who had nothing and who had a lot of adversity, and not very many people, maybe 0.00001% of people who are in those circumstances are able to come out of it. If we can learn that mantra, I think a lot of people, including the next generation, will benefit from that, and hopefully their journey will be easier and be given more direction by listening to a person who has done that journey before them. So with that, I think, Rajesh, we should, and I'm really glad that you have chosen to, as I mentioned in my tweet also, that it's quite remarkable for people to cover the journey that you have covered, but it's even more remarkable for those people to share that mantras or to share the secrets with others, which very clearly shows that it's not just about your experience that you have sort of gained for yourself, but also a need in you to share that with others, and a desire in you to share that with others. And that, I think, is exceptional. A lot of people have secrets, business mantras, business secrets, but the reason why they're called secrets is because they don't share it with anyone. So I'm really happy that you decided to write this book, and I look forward to launching it with you right now. And after that, we'll get into a conversation about the book, about many other things in life, and maybe a few questions that I have about you and the book and many other things. So in an ideal world, this would be the time that we would all stand up in the stage. We would take out the book. We would unwrap it simultaneously. There would be photos that would be taken, and the book would be officially launched. But like everything else, the new world, we have to make changes. So right now, what would have happened in sequence in the physical world is we would have displayed the book and then said that this book is available in all leading bookstores, and right back in the counter, there are these books which are signed by the author and which are kept there. What we need to do right now is for me to tell you that the book is already there on Amazon, and we will have I think Rajesh will put out the link in various different ways through the Facebook chats or whatever. And if you click on that link, it will take you straight to the book. And so with that, I'd probably assume the book has been launched. And now I'd like the author to, sort of begin firstly by describing your life journey in brief.
So, Captain, you cannot imagine the kind of pleasure it is to be having a book inaugurated by Captain Raghu Raman, who has been a guiding force and an admiration to me on a personal level, and I look forward to interacting with you all the time. Well, the journey has been interesting. It has been a lot of circumstances which has created what I am today. I took it all positively. My mom had a very powerful statement where she said that, Rajesh, in life, either a situation will control you or you can control the situation. Always opt for the option number 2, that is control the situation. Death should be the only situation that should ever control you. And that was so inspiring. I was just 13 years of age. This was in around 1984. And that statement stands the torch of my life. And it has been so inspiring since then. And then onwards, I've come across so many inspiring people. And the best thing that I do with people is I read them like books. I don't have the patience to read a lot of books. That is what, Captain, you're an expert in. But I love to read people who have read a lot of books, and that has made my journey very easy. It was never easy till it became easy. But I always knew that whatever is difficult in the beginning, you start doing that and you will be surprisingly astonished that it was so easy. So every journey that we crossed, every hurdle that we crossed, every obstacle that we came across, it started becoming a part of a very interesting journey. And from Malwani in the 1980s and 1990s to where we have reached, is that it has been a beautiful part of the journey, and people have played the most critical part of this journey. It is the people who have supported the thoughts and the vision and the ambitions and the actions that I carried throughout my life. And this is where I am today, doing an online launch with Captain Raghu Raman on 50 new life mantras in pandemic.
Thanks a ton, Rajesh. And for people who might not be from Bombay and who might not know what Malwani is, it's on the outskirts of Mumbai, and it's not a very happy place to live. Matter of fact, the average income of people who live in that place is quite low. And that's the reason why moving from there to Bandra, and Bandra, as you're aware, and it's not just about the location, it's also about, so it's not just, I think, about the material wealth, it's also about how you have positioned yourself in the society and how you have created this amazing network of people. I think with Rajesh, whenever I wanted to reach to anybody, no matter how far or how distant, if I know that if I tell Rajesh with 1 degree of separation, he'll find a contact to that person. And I think I endorse this fact about him absorbing knowledge from people. And I remember an anecdote, I don't know if Rajesh remembers it or not. There was about 4 or 5 years ago when I was working with the Mahindra Group, with Reliance. And I remember that was a very intense period during which I was extremely busy. And Rajesh and I needed to meet. And we had been planning, and it's not been working out, 1 week, 2 weeks, and all of that. And suddenly, one day I had to fly to Guwahati. I had to take a flight to Guwahati. I don't know if you remember this, Rajesh, but suddenly when I went to the airport, I found Rajesh, and I found that he was also going to Guwahati in the same flight. So we sat together, and as you're aware, the flight from Bombay to Guwahati is it's almost 3 hours. And by the time you sit in the plane, start talking, landing, it's almost 3.5 hours. So we had 3 hours of, talking time. I don't think we had spoken for 3 hours for a long time before that. We had been meeting, but not for that long duration. So when we landed in Guwahati, and I asked him, okay, so where is your work in Guwahati? He said, there's no work, I'm going back. I said, what do you mean? He said, this was the best time to meet with you, because 3 hours of flight time coming with you and total attention, no phone is working, no SMS, nobody is coming into the office or bothering us. I thought that was incredible. I've often spoken about that example to many people, because I haven't come across this way of seeking knowledge. And I'm sure it's not like I gave him some great earth-shattering gyan, but the fact is that once he has put his mind to getting something, the ways in which he will find a way to get that, and a lot of that reflects in the book also, is, I think, incredible. And I thought that was a story that needed to be told in terms of where this book is coming from. My second question, Rajesh, to you is that many parents tell their children many things. I mean, it's not like other mothers may not have told their children the same thing, and maybe they even told your siblings the same thing. That sentence by alone could not have been the key, because, like I said, all mothers and fathers wish well for their children, and they would tell the children more or less the same thing, that you need to take control of your destiny. Our teachers tell that. We read that in our primary education as well. What is it in you, or what was that made you? It couldn't have been just the statement. There must have been other circumstances as well.
So it was circumstances, Captain. I wanted to change the circumstances around me. I could see my school friends. Fortunately, I was in a very good school, St. Thomas High School. There are some schoolmates also of mine who are online. And all my friends were absolutely well settled. And those times living in an apartment itself was considered to be luxury, because I was a chawl boy. And the circumstance in which I was living, I knew that I'm the one who will do it for the family. I got focused. My ambitions were tall. And I understood that it is only me who can change the future of my destiny. And I started working on that. So right from a very young age, right from my first income of 3 rupees 50 paise working in a bindi factory at the age of 13 when I was in my 8th standard, then onwards itself, I started becoming very independent. And at a very young age, I achieved a lot of maturity Because when you realize and when you analyze and when you learn the circumstances around you, and when you want to plan to start changing them, you need to start working towards it. But I loved the journey, and it was always keeping me very enthusiastic. My parents only had one thing to tell me, that whatever you do in life, of course, everything legally, whatever you do in life, 4 times food is assured from us, a shelter, a roof on the head is assured from us. Go and search life, do what you want. We are, as parents, backing you up. We can't support you financially, but in spirits, in prayers, we are the biggest support that you have. That was sufficient enough. There was no looking back, Captain. And then the journey unfolded. And today it is so beautiful to have so many people from almost every part of the world who are a part of my life and my life journey.
Rajesh, you make the journey sound very, smooth and fun and beautiful. But I'm sure, nobody makes the journey. I've also lived life, and so have many, many people who are here. And we know that journeys, which my destination might be beautiful. When you look back and you look at the times that were nice. And because you reached that destination, you think the journey was beautiful. But there must have been some really, really down portions of your journey. I think it's also important to talk about that, because otherwise we might end up with an impression that you just sailed through and things just kept happening. And I know that even in your talks and all of that, you actually talk much more about the optimism and about the deals that came through. But I also want to hear, there must have been really, really tough times during this journey. What were those tough times?
So, Captain, one of the best attitude that I have developed in life is I don't have a fear of loss. I had nothing. So there is nothing for me to lose and not come back to that same thing again. So there was no fear of loss. There were incidences when there were challenges where we made a list of what has to be sold first, second, third, and come back and bounce back to life. There were situations when the Twin Tower blast took place in the United States of America. Our business was completely dead because I was in computer education, and the only draw for students to learn computers was going to the United States. And from 50 admissions a month per center, I dropped down to 2 to 3 admissions per month per center. And suddenly I saw darkness in front of me. And that is the time in the evening we sat and made a list of all the jewelry and all the vehicles that we will start selling one by one. But the ship will keep going. Not a single person will lose the job. There will not be any salary cut. There won't be any compromise on the payments to be done to the vendors or to any agencies that matter. But we will make sure that we will sustain from the past wealth that we have created. So that always there was a readiness to, there was no fear of loss. There was readiness to let go. And I knew there is a confidence that you'll win it back again. But trust me, Captain, never in life was a situation that came ever where that had to be exercised or that had to be done. And I always have a feeling that when you don't have a fear of loss, there is nothing that can scare you. And Malwani has been a very big college of learning for me in terms of being fearless, because there was everything that was fearful around me. So how can, if you cannot balance that fear, if you can't live with that fear, you can't live a life. So Malwani was the place where I became actually fearless of the situations. And then financial situations, fear was never there, because I had the confidence that it is a capability that will count and we will bounce back again. Just once, Captain, in life, I became a little fearful financially. And that situation was the Twin Towers blast, which took place in the United States, where my business just disappeared overnight. But we bounced back. Not a single ounce of gold had to be sold or jewelry had to be sold. And without doing that, we bounced back into business with new strategies, new formulas of how we do the business, new products that we could offer in our classes, and we bounced back into the system. So that was only one experience that I faced it that way. Otherwise, there was absolutely no. I do a lot of real estate development. In real estate development, I come across a lot of variety of challenges. It might be the underworld, it might be the politicians, it might be absolutely all uncertain things, but everything gets managed purely because the business that I did was education, and people who were as your students, their brothers, fathers, mothers, sisters, whoever they were always supportive to what I did. So there was always a circle of protection around what I did. And never did I want to do anything wrong, which I would need their support. But their circle being around me was good enough to sustain and survive in a city like Mumbai, in an activity like the real estate development. And so what others had the fear and what people faced, unfortunately for me, I could never face that. And I was very fair in my dialogue. And I always believed in one thing, Captain. You have been a military man yourself. I've always been believed in one thing. Attack the challenge on the face. Always take the bull by the horns. So whenever I faced a challenge, even in my real estate industry, I was the man facing it from the front. I used to never try to depend on others who will come and save me or rescue me or something of that sort. Yeah, I always took it head on, and that attitude has helped me and taken me places, and people respect that, and so they cooperate. So ultimately what is required in any business success and existence is the cooperation of the system, the ecosystem around you and the people around you. So that's how I have tackled my situation. And another thing another thing I want to share, Captain, is on the journey of life, the more people that you support and you help, the more robust is your system and your ecosystem and your living. So there are friends of mine for whom I can take a bullet on my chest, and there are friends of mine who will take a bullet on their chest for me. And that is the kind of deep relationship that I have built with people all across the world. It is not how many days or hours I've spent with them, but but by being with them in the hour of need has created a very robust system of friendships. And I feel friendship is the only ship that can never sink and allow you to sink. So I've been blessed by that virtue of God.
No, I can personally testify to that. I think you have been truly, not just for me, but for many other people, a friend in need. And that, as you rightly said, is a friend indeed. And I think there's a very important lesson here in this part, which, it's a subtle lesson, but it's an important lesson that many people might be thinking that if they are in bad circumstances, whether they were born into bad circumstances or they were forced into bad circumstances, as Rajesh points out, that's actually a blessing, because that is the college. That is the time at which you learn. And as I know of this story where when Rajesh entered into the computer education business in Malbani, he was possibly the only businessman who had a protection both from the gangsters and from the police, because their children were studying. Both the children were studying with him, and maybe that lesson of being able to manage two contrarian sort of segments of people with conflicting interests, but finding a common point, which in this case were children, is a part of the secret. Now, you have written these 50 mantras here, and I know we don't have much time for this. So why don't you just tell me, say the top 3 mantras that you would recommend from this book of 50?
So one mantra, Captain, that I would love is community building. This is absolutely the times for community building. It is living together. There might be social distancing, but the souls are together, the people are together, and there is love and care for each other. So I've described community building in one of the chapters. The other chapter that I love is the team morale building, team education, team motivation, and functioning together as a team and changing the fortunes around you. Another mantra that I've shared is how we can build an ecosystem, how we can become customers to each other and come over this challenge, come over this pandemic, and build a robust ecosystem where we all grow together and live together. The book, Captain, my absolute attempt through the book is to create leadership. And when you read these 50 chapters together, what actually transpires in your mind is a different kind of a leadership. The leadership, according to me, henceforth will not be about your mission and your vision and your passion. The leadership henceforth is purely going to be based on purpose only. So I feel henceforth in the new world order that we are venturing into and entering into, the next life will be a leadership which will be purposeful leadership. So everybody needs to be a purpose-driven leader where the world around you will join you and help you to grow in life because they believe in your purpose and they believe in your building of an ecosystem and they will join in your growth glory. So I think purposeful leadership is what I have tried to drive through this 50 mantras that I've collated together. All the mantras are very interesting and excellent, but these are the 3 that I like, and the output that I expect out of this book is the right leadership towards your family, leadership towards your organization, leadership towards your customers, and leadership towards nation building. These are the 4 kind of leadership that will emerge when people try to read, absorb, and try to implement this book with small ideas and small anecdotes which can be helpful in decision making that you intend to be doing.
So, I mean, of course, the many of the lessons that you talk about in this book, they're not just pertinent because of the lockdown. Those elements are equally valid. I like one of the chapters where you have written about how a company needs to handle its HR and its employees, especially during a downturn. You have gone through that, as you said, even during the World Trade Center bombing. So it's not something that is very, I wouldn't limit it only to the pandemic. These lessons are not mantras only. It's not like a medicine that you take only during the pandemic and after that you go back to normal. So to that extent, I think you have also spent a lot of time in education and in low-cost housing. Of course, you also do, I know, the other end of luxury building, but much of your focus has been on education and housing. How do you think both? I know generically everyone knows this, that education will probably change, but it will definitely boom because during a downturn, at least one strata of the society which can't get jobs decides that they'll go back to school and college. So that part of the segment will increase. But with so much of poverty that's going to happen, I mean, we are already looking at about 25% job loss, and it's not looking that it'll rise up in the near future. A lot of income in people's hand is really not there. A lot of people have lost their jobs or will lose, and will continue to lose, as you're aware. I mean, the world is going to go into a recession, so it's not something that is India specific. How would you how would you project? What do you think will happen in the education industry and in the housing industry?
So education, now people have realized that 25% of the people who have lost jobs, they are purely lost job because they are not revenue contributors to the organization. The people who are competent and capable are still in the jobs. Probably they might have a slight of a job haircut in the terms of salary or something of that sort, but they will never lose jobs because organizations have to function. Education will make it sure that the capabilities of a person improve, capability of the people who have lost their jobs improve. There will be productivity microscope on every person, every corporate, every government, henceforth, from the post-pandemic era, when we start unlocking this lockdown. And everybody will be accountable to what he is contributing to the organization, to the family, and to the government, to the nation. So everybody is going to be monitored. So education is one mechanism where they will upgrade themselves to become capable and competent. So that is the part of the education era. As far as housing is concerned, in this pandemic, the only asset class which actually supported every man on planet Earth was the comfort of the house. We went back to the cave era, where like people used to live in the cave. We started living for the last 65 days. We are actually living in a house which is not a cave. It is a very beautiful house, but people have realized the importance of having a good house. Captain, you will be surprised to understand this, that our inquiries for the villas that we develop on outskirts, which is affordable luxury, have increased because people want to now live in open areas. They want to be living away. Even that is the plan of the government. They want to decentralize urban cities. They want to make horizontal development of the countries and forget smart cities. They want to develop smart villages. So there is going to be a lot of decentralization of people. People will want more space to live because now people have been educated and trained and groomed in the last 65 days that you can be at home and still be productive. So there are people who might come twice in a week to the city. There are people who might come twice in a month to the city. And there are people who come once in 3 months to the city. So it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you are productive and you don't need to go to America to work for an American company. You can sit here in India in a comfortable home and still operate for the commitments that you have given to an American company. So the things are changed. Behavior is changed. The output is going to change. A lot of things are changing. So a lot of people from the metro cities are now planning to liquidate assets in the cities, create a liquidity, and with a portion of that money, buy comfortable houses a little far away from the city so that in the future, that appreciation will help them. But today, by selling their units within the city, they get cash liquidity in the hands. At the same time, they get a bigger house and a better house with land ownership, probably where you can have your own terrace, and an independent community with less density, which will help you from the contamination of any kind of a disease, not only corona, and pure oxygen and fresh air. So the thinking pattern of people is changing, and the infrastructure investment that the government is doing, already started doing and will be have to do because they have to infuse money in the economy. With that kind of infrastructure happening, even the outskirts and the villages will get more connected to the cities thanks to the road network that is being developed and the railway network, which is already very aggressive and very extensive. So that is my take on that, Captain.
So I just want to take one more point from that. I mean, you mentioned that this is a good time to get rid of your property inside a city and find something. Who's buying in the cities these days?
So nobody is buying in the cities, but if you give a good offer, there are buyers. So there are people who are waiting for the buying, and banks are encouraging a lot of real estate buying. In fact, the government will now be planning to strategize. Naredco and Creda is in very close coordinations with the top hierarchy of the government officials at the center and at the state level, where they want relief measures from the government in terms of taxes and the premiums that are being charged. That might help the people to buy in the city. But there are people who don't want to be in the city because of hygienic levels in the city in terms of congestion, traffic jam. And these are they might be 10%, but 10% of a mega city like Mumbai also is like a small town in any part of the country. So even that kind of thought process have started in the minds of the people, and people are really become very health conscious. So they will want to get into an environment which is more open, less polluted, pure oxygen, free air, and free movement around in the community for the children and themselves. So I feel these changes are happening very rapidly, Captain.
Great. I think that's an amazing. I know we have time for just maybe a couple of more questions, but I wanted to ask you one of these questions that I saw one of the comments here that Rajesh is a born leader. I'm never happy with a statement like that, because that gives an excuse to everybody else. It gives an excuse to anyone else. The born leader, I don't have it in me. So I want you to actually emphasize on the fact that, and I believe it. I believe that very genuinely. We have spoken about it several times, that there is no such thing as a born leader, and that even propagating that myth is actually a disservice to a lot of people, because it's like saying he's a born runner, he's a born coder. And there is no such thing. I mean, we know that several world-class athletes, they couldn't even run, and some of them had polio when they were born. So I want to go back to that point and say that when people say you're a born leader, how do you prove to them that you're not a born leader?
So proving that you're not a born leader is difficult, but helping them to become better.
You're not a born leader.
Easy. I'm not. It's coaching.
I know, but yeah. So I'm asking you a difficult question. I mean, this wasn't supposed to be an easy question. So I want to actually go back and say that you were born in tough circumstances, and when we say you were a born leader, you must have learned leadership at various different levels. You must have learned, and you've spoken about it in a few of those instances where you can say, this is what I learned in terms of how to do X, and this is how I learned. So that the message goes out very clearly to the thousands of people who are listening here, that there is no such thing as a born leader. You may have reached a place where it appears that everything is, sort of handed over to you by kismat. But we all know that we have to make, at least, and you say that very often, that you have to make your own destiny. So I want to hear that aspect to dispel this belief that a lot of people have, that he was a born leader.
So according to me, Captain, everybody is a born leader. Some people take the initiative to take the extra mile, and that is what each person has to do. Probably I did it. There are so many other people who did it, and there are so many people who have not yet taken that initiative. So the people who have not taken that initiative, I think they need to be groomed and coached that this is your capability. Do your SWOT analysis. If one can run and win the race, even you can run and win the race. So it is more about what you can illuminate others to do on what you have done. And it is no novelty. There are millions and millions of people like me, like you, like all the other successful people who are there in the audience. It is how much initiative is taken by whom, who can take that more extra uncomfortable route to reach destination faster, who will have that extra level of grit and determination, who will sleep less, who will work more, who will learn faster, who will learn more, and who is going to be like a sponge, ready to learn all the time, who will have the attitude of gratitude, who can be courteous, who can be thankful, and who can be the person who can count his blessings. If you have these types of thought processes with you, you are going to be a thought leader, you are going to be a game changer, and each one of us is. We just need to take that extra initiative, is what I believe in, Captain.
I know you gave a very long recipe for menu list, and I'm hoping that a lot of it is going to be there in the book, because people who are listening, they might not even have had occasion, and I'm sure you'll be putting this out as a recording also, so people who want to listen to that would be able to listen to it. I saw the scroll passing by which gave out the link of your book, but I don't think anybody needs to have that link. If you just go to Amazon and just type 50 life mantras, the book jumps out and tells you. That's another great thing about technology, is that you don't need to remember links anymore and all of that. We have overshot the time that we had set aside, and I know a lot of people have on a weekend sort of attended this, and that's but I'm sure like me, who every time I meet Rajesh, I learn something new. Even if it's not just learning, it's important to get that booster dose, once in a while. All of us need that booster dose once in a while to say, we need, and that I can say, Rajesh, you were born with. You were born with that ability to give the raw energy to whoever you meet and whichever crowd you go to. So thanks a ton, Rajesh, and thank you for the honor of being able to launch your book. And I'm sure this is the first of many books that you're going to write. And again, like many of you may not know this, but this is not just about a book. He's also converted this in every medium. So there is a digital blog, there is videos, and then perhaps is also going to be an audio book on this. So there are various different ways in which this knowledge can be absorbed, and I hope maximum number of people will do that. Thanks a ton. Thank you very much, Rajesh and Raghu.
Thank you, Captain Raghu. It's absolutely a milestone in my life for having this book spoken about by you and launched by you. Definitely, this goes in the history of my personal life. Thanks for the honors, and I really appreciate your gestures. I would love to thank every person who's present with me during this journey of launching the book. and the journey that we traveled together for 25 days with Nagu Chidambaram and Geeta Nagu, when we did live sessions with thousands of people across the world. It was fantastic. This book has been decimated into conversations, live conversations. There are blogs on this. There are animated videos on this. There are quotes that we created out of this book. And today, the pinnacle of the collection of these articles is the launch of the book at the hands of Captain Raghu Raman. I once again express my thanks and gratitude to Captain Raghu Raman and everybody who's there with me on this online platform for attending this occasion. I would now like to request Ms. Geeta Nagu to come on the screen and do the honors. Geeta.
Good evening, everyone, and I thank each one of you for being here with us for the launch of Agnelorajesh Athaide's 50 New Life Mantras. Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Captain Raghuram, for unveiling the book, for your most inspiring speech, and for your esteemed presence. This book is so well written by Rajesh and covering all aspects of profession and business post-COVID. And this book has great relatability and relevance to the current times. And Rajesh wrote this book from start to finish just in 15 days. And after the 15 days, we did the back-to-back 25 days of live sessions covering the 50 topics, Nagu, me and Rajesh on Facebook Live. And today it is being unveiled and launched. So back-to-back, just imagine, and that is the speed, you know. Rajesh is all about speed. Look at the speed of the thought to the speed of the execution, and he's all about speed, as we all know him. And I know Rajesh for more than a decade now as family friends and as business partners. Ours is a great partnership of strength, trust, and shared vision. Rajesh lives by his mother's principle. As he was talking about his childhood learning when he was just 13 years old, his mother told him, Rajesh, in life, situations will control you, or you have to become strong enough to control all the situations. Ever since he's lived his life like that, and this is yet another example where how he handled COVID. So how he handled COVID was he wrote a book of 50 mantras and he, rejigged the whole thing. And this made him ideate, reinvent, redefine his path, and him sharing it with others helped all of us reinvent and ideate and redefine our path with a renewed energy. That is what this book has done to all of us. And thank you, Captain Raghu, once again, and for being with us. And you are such a renowned personality, and you are so befitting to be here, to be launching this book. You're a big inspiration to all of us with your career profile and vast experience in the Indian Army, your central government bodies and corporate India. You were leading top positions. And you are one of the most preferred keynote speaker in the nation today and most sought after person. You
second most after Rajesh.
And you yourself have authored a lovely, wonderful book, Every Man's War. It's a fabulous book. And your subject, what you cover on your keynote, your leadership at 26,000 feet, your 5 plans of persuasion, your leadership during challenge, all that is truly mentoring programs, leadership programs, and so many have benefited out of it. And you are the right person to have launched this book today. And thank you so much.
As usual, you are very, very, very kind with your words. Thank you so much.
It was a wonderful evening. I thank everybody who's here with us to have participated for the evening and graced the occasion. It is so special and dear to us. Rajesh, you're awesome. The book is awesome. And this is fabulous. And wishing all of us here, each one of you, a wonderful life filled with happiness, good health, prosperity, abundance, and peace of mind always. Life is very beautiful, and take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Geeta. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Captain. Have a God bless future, everybody. And let's stay together, work together, pray together, and grow together. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.